Hello, everyone. I am Sacrabalic, your envoy of hope, and welcome to Dialogue Tree episode 10. That sounded like a fucking mess because I adjusted my mic in the middle of that. Maid, how are you doing tonight? What is going on? Um, as you can tell by my voice, because I can even hear it, I still have a fucking fever. Yeah. Man, I had the craziest coughing fit right before the stream. I was not able to breathe for like 10 minutes. It is actually fucking wild. Anyway, welcome everyone. How are you all doing? Are you sure you should be here? Oh, maid. Of course I should not be here. But I said I'd keep to my schedule, and I'm fucking keeping to my schedule. All right. So first off, 10 months in a row. All right. What it's yeah, it's been God, almost 2 years, wouldn't it have been? Yeah. We're almost 2 years. Rewatching Ergo Proxy and playing Soul Hackers. I'm seeing a theme going on. Anyway, so everyone knows it's booze. I got to get my booze in. Um, Now, here's the deal, all right? I don't want to break anyone's heart. Here's the thing. Um, Whenever I drink lately, um, uh, I end up, for whatever reason, getting kind of sick the next day. I think it's because the alcohol is lowering my immune system or whatever. So, as you can tell, I don't need my immune system lowered anymore. You really shouldn't be drinking and sick. Exactly my point. So, I know you're all on the edge of your seat thinking, what crazy fucking like 50% alcohol bullshit cocktail is Sack gonna pull out? And the answer is I'm not. The answer is I'm not. We do got some alcohol, but I wanted to make sure that it was like I wanted to make sure it was cheap because I didn't want to spend the money. And I wanted to make sure it wasn't that much alcohol because I didn't want to deal with the negative repercussions of actually getting drunk. So, went to a local gas station, picked up Lipton Hard Iced Tea. Lipton Hard Iced Tea, peach flavored. Um, Drinks a fucking emergency. And so that is what we're drinking tonight. It is a malt beverage, so it's basically a beer, and it is 5% alcohol by volume. So, yeah, there's that. So let's crack this bitch open and find out what it's like. I'm hoping it tastes like peach tea. Yeah, no, I'm with you. Beers fucking suck, but I'm hoping the peach tea flavor overwhelms the beer flavor. Let's get wet. Yeah, that is it's hard to describe what that is. It's like I've had other malt-based gimmick beverages before, but like I wasn't able to taste the malt. I can taste the malt. Like there's clearly a beer to that. You know what I'm saying? But the peach tea does mitigate the effect so you don't get that terrible beer aftertaste. But the beer flavor offsets the sweetness of the peach tea. So it kind of just fails at being both things. Like it like you don't get the absolutely dog shit flavor of a beer, but you don't get the nice refreshing smoothness and sweet flavor of a peach tea. It really does feel like they just mixed peach tea with beer. What is in this? Hold up. What's the ingredients? It doesn't say. It doesn't say what the ingredients are. It just says it's a malt beverage. Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess that's what we're drinking tonight. Anyway, I have 3 of them. We might not get through them all tonight. I'm not bothered if we do. All right. Anyway, update time. What have I been up to? Yeah, I got a new job. And that's where I've been. And I already mentioned that on one of the previous streams. So no real reason to go into that detail. Do I have anything else going on? Mama Sack had a birthday. That was kind of fun. Nope. I'm out. I'm out of things. I'm out of that. We talked about everything. Anyway, yeah. Well, I guess that's the updates. There's probably like some politics or shit we could talk about, but it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Let's just fucking go on. All right. Short episode tonight, probably. I have a good amount of topics, but I'm not sure I have a lot to say about the topics. So yeah, let's kick us off with The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. The Zelda game where you... Oh, this is an actual part of the map, because that heart piece right there is actually in the game. The first Zelda game where you play this week, Beautiful Monster by Suhiro Maru comes out. What is that? It's the first Zelda game where you actually play Zelda herself. Yeah, the game opens up with Link fighting Ganondorf, and then they both get swallowed by a black portal, and then Zelda frees herself from a crystal, and then you play Zelda. Man, I wanted to like this game so much better than I did. Oh, another important bit of information about this is I 100%ed this game. That's right. Every heart piece. That's right. Every accessory. That is right. Every outfit, minus the ones where you have to scan the amiibos or whatever the fuck they're called. Didn't get the amiibo outfits, but like, I'm not going to buy little fucking figures to just shove on my fucking Switch. That's crazy. Yeah, but the CDI games aren't canon. And I did remember that fact, by the way. I chose to ignore it for the record. But anyway, yeah, got all the outfits. I did all of the Sleep Dojo challenges. And more specifically than that, I didn't just do all of the Sleep Dojo challenges. I did all of the Sleep Dojo challenges and got an, what is it, like an awesome rating? I got an awesome rating on all of them. I didn't just do the like basic level you have to. I got the bonus one where you do it extra fast. Now, admittedly, did not do it lickety-split in every challenge. Do not think it is possible to lickety-split every Sleep Dojo challenge. I genuinely do not think it works, as we will get into when we talk about the mechanics of this video game. Excuse me. Oh, and I also got the good time on all the horse races. Not the basic one. I got the like bonus one. I also did it for all the acorn things. So I did everything this game had to offer. I talked to all the NPCs. I did everything. I 100% of this game. So basically in this game, the idea is that you like kill monsters and find objects, and then you can summon them at the cost of a number of points. And the problem with it is you can't really direct the monsters very well. And honestly, here's part of the issue. The number one issue with this game is the primary mechanic of this game, which is that once you summon a monster, you can't really control what it does. You can like point at an enemy and then eventually it'll attack. But the monsters have very specific attack animations, and they have to go through their animations to attack an enemy. And so the problem that you end up with in this game is that you just are like hoping that and you can't predict when your summons will play their attack animations. So you have to just hope it works. You have to just hope that the enemy is in the correct position once the animation plays out. It is honestly an absolute fucking nightmare. This game also runs like shit, which is wild to me. So played it in handheld mode, which I think is actually supposed to run better for Switch. And yeah, the map is a fucking nightmare. There's constant stuttering and frame drops, which the game doesn't look like it would be that detailed to have stuttering and frame drops. And so what I think is the problem is I think the map is so big and I think it loads in too much bullshit. Because this is basically an open world game. I feel like this didn't need to be an open world game. And I feel like the game doesn't necessarily benefit from being open world, but it is an open world game for some reason. And I think especially Hyrule Field is where it's the worst. I think it just loads in so many fucking monsters that the game just can't take it. And so yeah, the performance of the game itself is actually a problem. The story of this game is really important for the lore of the Zelda franchise and is not very interesting regard other than that. Excuse me. The concept of playing as Zelda is pretty cool, but basically it's just like the dark void monsters end up replacing people, and then every time you go to a new area, you have to find out who's replaced by a dark void monster, then you go to the dungeon, then you solve the problem. What I'm saying is that Zelda can do better stories than this. I know Zelda games aren't, like, known for their stories, but you've got, like, you've got, like, Breath of the Wild had a really good story. Tears of the Kingdom was okay. Twilight Princess, like, there have been Zelda games with better stories than this one. I've heard good things about Link's Awakening, although I haven't personally played it. I own it. It's just sitting on a shelf, but I have not personally played it. So it's not like Zeldas aren't known for their stories, but they can do better stories, and this is very lackluster and designed just to facilitate the gameplay, which can be very frustrating due to the monster summoning mechanics. Excuse me. The little chibi art style's okay. I don't necessarily have too much of a complaint about that. Soundtrack's fine. I don't remember any necessarily standout tracks. The big issue about this is there really isn't anything that grabs onto. The characters are shallow. The story is just there for the gameplay. The gameplay is annoying as fuck to go through. There's definitely some moments I enjoyed about it, but overall, I felt that The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom was sort of a massive disappointment all the way through. And believe me, I wanted to like the Zelda game where you play as Zelda. I really did. But yeah, it was kind of not great. Oh, but one thing I will say is that you could change your clothes in this game, and I basically never took off the Gerudo outfit. And it wasn't because I liked seeing Zelda in a Gerudo outfit. It was because it gives you a bonus to your spin, and it's like the best ability in the game. Oh, shit. Though, I will say this. Speaking of the Gerudo outfit, I did have a fun moment when I was playing this, where I was walking through the desert as Zelda, and I walk right into Gerudo Town, and I had a temporary freakout moment where I'm like, wait a minute, did I just walk into Gerudo Town? You never get to walk into Gerudo Town. Why the fuck am I walking into Gerudo Town? There's like a side quest in every single Zelda game with Gerudo Town that stops you from going into Gerudo Town. And then that's what I remembered. Oh yeah, wait a minute. I'm playing as Zelda. Women are allowed in Gerudo Town. You don't need a side quest. You're just allowed to walk in if you're Zelda. For those that don't know, you're not allowed to be in Gerudo Town if you're a man, except for in very rare circumstances, such as if you're a male Gerudo, which almost never happens, or in Tears of the Kingdom, where you're allowed in because the entire town is covered in sand and no one gives a shit anymore. Anyway, it was a fun little moment. It was a little fun moment where I'm like, oh yeah, Zelda's a woman. She's slid in. A benefit, unlike P3 Portable, where you get paid less for being a girl. Is that actually from the same game? Because that's fucking wild, if it is. Or is that from, like, Fest to Portable? It is? Oh my god, that is awful. That is awful. I have actually heard that it is, like, mechanically worse to be a girl in that game because the girls use naginatas, which is apparently the worst weapon also. But anyway, I don't know how true that is. But anyway, yeah. So that's you can only take part-time jobs and portable and reload. Oh, okay. I don't remember. Is that true? How do you make money in Fest? I don't remember. Do you just kill shit in Fest?
I forget.
Here's the thing. Usually doing a part-time job, unless you're doing it to activate a social link, is usually the worst possible way to make money in Persona. I can't think of a single Persona game where making money by doing a part-time job is an actually beneficial use of your time. Like SMT, It, and OGP3. Like, I know at the very least in like 4 or 5, the best way to get money was just to like grind, and apparently obviously you have to do that in Fast. So like, yeah, I can only imagine in Reload and Portable, it is the same thing where part-time job, unless you're unlocking a social link, is just an objective waste of your fucking effort. Like, it's a waste of a time slot, which are precious then in those games. But anyway, yeah. So fun fact, you can just walk into Gerudo Time. And it's like the first time ever. It's fucking great. The problem is in all versions of P3, you don't get money for fighting randos. Huh. I did not remember that. I don't remember a lot of the like little bits of minutia anyway. But anyway, yeah, I don't have anything to say about Echoes of Wisdom. I think I basically summed it up. Yep, moving on. Oh, if I remember correctly, the horse controls like shit in this game. There, that's my last note. Excuse me. Alright, now, I've been hinting at this for a while, alright? I've been like, hey, I'm playing an old game. You'll never guess what old game I'm playing. My game came out in, I want to say, 1996. And I've been hinting at it for the past month. And the thing is, I'm only halfway through it, baby. That's right. I did not beat it, so we're not talking about it this stream. We're going to have to talk about it in 2 months from now. We're moving on, baby. We're out of the video game section. That was the only video game I played these last 2 months was Echoes of Wisdom. You picked up plenty of shit running around Tartarus for killing randos, which reminds me, in Soul Hikers 1, you get 0 money, so I have to sell Metric Funtime and Magnetite. So, moving on to TV shows. I watched Scissor 7. That's right. This is I want to call him a Donghua. I believe it is Donghua. Let me make sure that's correct, but I believe this is what is known as a Donghua. Yeah, this is a Donghua. I was right. Yeah, so this is a Chinese show, a Donghua, if you will. And that's right. I am so committed to the fact that Chinese animation is not fucking anime that I literally refuse to review one on my anime channel. It is not happening. I'm reviewing it here on this podcast. So anyway, yeah, I've heard about Scissor 7 for a while, and I heard good things, but I didn't really want to check it out because I fucking refused to, because every time I see an animated character not speaking English or Japanese, my brain fucking snaps. It cannot withstand watching any other language come out. Don't know what it is. I think I'm just too used to it, but turns out this had an English dub. And heard good things, and then I saw some clips on YouTube, so decided to check it out. Here's the basic idea. Former top assassin ends up getting super amnesia, probably self-inflicted, becomes a hairdresser on an island with an inordinate amount of martial artists for no fucking reason. And ends up getting embroiled in a war between a martial arts country and a science country, where I'm pretty sure the science country stands absolutely zero fucking chance of winning against martial arts country. And it's all about big ol' martial arts fights. I will say that the first season is terrible. Like, almost unwatchable. It had a very heavy comedy focus in the first season, and the main character was constantly getting dunked on, constantly getting beat up, and it was like basically the joke of every episode. It was not entertaining. However, I will say this, they progressively get more serious with the story as it goes into the later seasons. And my desire to see where the show was going based on what was set up in season 1 was the reason I basically continued past season 1. And it gets really interesting as it gets to later seasons and almost completely gives up being a comedy, which is good because it's a way better action show than it is a comedy show. Oh my god, let me tell you, I am so fucking sick right now. This is not going to be my best stream. I can already tell. Holy shit, I am falling apart. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. This is going to be the worst episode of Dialogue Tree. I guarantee you. Anyway, yeah, so it's a pretty solid action show. It's got really good animation on that. You end up finding yourself liking the characters more. Even the characters that were like dumb gag characters that were set up in the first part, they end up getting expanded on, and they have more histories, and they end up becoming more compelling as the series goes on. Like everyone you see on screen right in here now basically gets expanded on, except for I think the little tiny little white chibi person in the corner. I have no idea who the fuck that is, but everyone else ends up getting their own little expansion. And yeah, they end up becoming actually likable, compelling characters as it goes on. It is surprisingly good if you watch every episode and not if you only watch the first season. I would almost say that if you didn't need the setup in the first season, I would almost say you could just skip season 1. Season 1 is not worth watching. Anyway, the latest season has only been released on Bilibili, so I'm hoping it ends up coming to Netflix. Because I'm not going to watch it in Chinese on Bilibili. That isn't going to happen. But yeah, it's pretty solid. I want to see where the characters are going. It definitely, especially the last season, felt like it's sort of dragging its ass. It feels like it's trying to take its time to get to the destination to tell its story. And the last season especially had a lot of like episodes that did connect back to each other and into the main plot at the end of it. But it did feel like there was a lot of just like fluff and filler that didn't necessarily need to be there and isn't necessarily pushing the narrative forward. So it definitely feels like one of those narratives that's sort of dragging its ass because it's trying to keep the show running rather than just getting to the fucking point and making an actually better product. But what is there is enjoyable enough, and I would recommend it. Also, they introduced the Spider Lily assassin woman, who I think is dead now. But, like, she's fucking awesome, and I love her. So, there you go. I'm legitimately having trouble talking. My throat is not having it tonight. Holy shit. This is going to be a 1-hour stream, because I'm trying not to talk. All right. I think we're going to move on from Scissor 7, where I watched Castlevania Nocturne. That's right, I watched both seasons of Castlevania Nocturne. Season 2 came out, and I was like, it's time to watch this. How does Castlevania Nocturne stack up to the original Castlevania show? It's worse in basically every way. No, I mean, that basically sums it up. Like, this show's definitely got worse reception than the original Castlevania show, and yeah, I can fucking see why. One thing I will say, to the show's credit, is I like Richter as a character in this. I like that Richter isn't... Because the thing about Trevor in the original show was, like, he was sort of a... like, almost like a nihilistic, depressed dude. Ironic, because Rondo of Blood was worse in every way to Castlevania 4. He was sort of like a nihilistic, depressed dude, whereas, like, Richter is sort of like a cocky kid, and I think he's, like, genuinely younger than Trevor. Also. So he's sort of this, like, cocky kid, but I also like that he ended up getting traumatized by gay Aztec vampire man. Orlov, I want to say his name is. Dog, we gotta fucking talk about... Look, I have been trying to wean off of talking about fucking like overrepresentation as the series goes on, which I guess, you know what, will lead into another point about why I have been slowly weaning off of that. But in the meantime, I like that he got traumatized with him as a kid, and so when he sees him later in the series, he just fucking books it and runs like a super big coward. I actually appreciate that moment of characterization. You don't see that in a lot of media where the main character sees they're like the person who killed their mom and is like, I'm fucking gone. Goodbye. I am out of this building. Rondo's good, but they were really progressive with the gameplay, and then Rondo comes around and fucking goes back to the way the NES games play. Richter and Rondo looks like Ryu. Yeah, let's see. Also, one improvement I will say over the original is that Alucard is wearing his oh god, what is it? Nocturne of Reminiscence or whatever. What was the game called? Nocturne of Recollection. Yeah, Alucard's wearing his Nocturne of Recollection outfit, which was a yeah, it was like a drama CD. That he looks so fucking good. He looks so fucking good. I actually think the character designs in this are pretty good. The main villain, I'm gonna call her the main villain, even though I don't actually think she's the main villain. What's her name? It starts with a D. Drolta. Fuck, her name is Drolta. She's the vampire in the back. Anyway, Drolta's design's fucking killer. She changes outfits in like every scene. She's fucking great. Love her design. Hate where they go with her character. Maria. So here's another problem with Castlevania Nocturne. These characters are so much less developed than the original cast that I barely fucking remember who any of them are. Maria's great. We'll talk about Maria. And then Annette, I believe, is the other one. I believe the other girl is Annette. Annette. Okay, great. Yeah, so Richter, Maria, Annette, Drolta. Great. Okay, we're all caught up. Now we know who these fucking people are. Anyway, yeah, I love that Richter's a huge fucking cocky kid, shit coward. And I love that a lot of the problems are because he is just fucking... Maria's weird because she's a far cry from how she is in the games. I fucking love her. She's the best character. Yeah, I love that a lot of Richter's problems or that Richter just sucks at his job of being a vampire hunter. I think that's really interesting. Maria's the best fucking character in the whole show. I like that she's all like Viva la Revolution at the beginning, and then when it turns out that like her dad is actually the corrupt priest, she just goes absolutely fucking psycho. The best moments about this are the like reveals that the summons that she creates are linked to her emotional state, and she can only control creatures if she is like those creatures in that moment. And so when she starts ripping monsters out of the abyss, there's like some horrible implications. Like the big thing is when she like fucking barbecues the priest. I guess we're doing spoilers this. Fuck you, I guess. I don't care that it just came out. The implication is that like her personality was like that of the dragon. But when she got pissed off at Just, who is Richter's grandpa, when she got pissed off at him and that fucking thing rips itself out of the portal and it's not even clear what the fuck it was, that's the craziest moment of all. Because like that's the moment where Maria's brain is so fucking fried and she is so fucking pissed off that like what's coming out isn't even recognizable anymore. It is just like sheer unadulterated malice. Hey Kato, I'm sick as shit. How are you doing? And I love the characterization that Maria has in this of just slowly losing her mind and becoming this almost like God anti-hero villain. She does that pose, by the way, the thumbs up pose that actually happens in the show. They make reference to it, by the way, Maid. They do the pose. I think they do the eye pose at one point also. So. Doing good? That's great to hear. Anyway, Maria is the absolute highlight of the show. You know who's not the highlight of the show is Annette. Annette is not the highlight of the show. First thing I want to talk about, Annette got race swapped into being Haitian. Got a lot to talk about. We will unfortunately have to talk about the weird over-inclusivity of the show in a moment, but the big thing I want to talk about before we get into some of this more almost problematic elements of how the show goes about it is that I actually think the biggest crime of the race swap of Annette is that Annette's original design is just better. It's just better. It is the problem. And that's, you can't be like, oh, Sack, you're racist because I just praised how fucking good Drolta's design is. So checkmate. I think like, I think it's too plain. It's just like fucking like dreads with like gold and then she's just like wearing a shirt or whatever. But like, go look up the Annette vampire design on like the Castlevania wiki. I mean, her normal design is fine. I would argue her normal design is still better than the show's Annette design, but her fucking vampire design is fan-fucking-tastic. So if anything, the biggest issue with the race swap is the fact that her design got worse is weirdly one of my number one complaints about it. I've just splashed myself with tea. I will be back in 5 seconds. All right, I've returned. Let's see. In Rondo, Maria's infinitely easier to play as Richter, who's clunky as shit because her little Zodiac summons are overpowered as fuck. It's funny because beating the game as Maria is hilariously cutesy. Oh, I didn't even realize they were Zodiac animals. Oh, shit, they are, aren't they? Oh, fuck. That's kind of cool. Except for that one bug thing. I don't remember the bug part of the Chinese Zodiac. You know, the bug part of the Zodiac. Yeah. Anyway. No, that's neat. I didn't even notice that. Yeah. Anyway, Annette's original design is better. That's the big issue. This show has almost an inclusivity problem. And I hate to talk about it. I really do. Which is that, like, basically, she'll call out their Japanese names. Which is, like, there's, like, a weird amount of inclusivity in this. To the point where it almost becomes distracting, like, where it felt like they were, like, checking off boxes. Like, straight up, there is a character in this who is the killer of Richter's mom, who is a gay Aztec man, which is a fucking weird goddamn pull. And he ends up in a relationship with a crusader who is also gay for some reason. And then there's an implied lesbian relationship between Drolta, who's a black woman, and Elizabeth Bathory, who's white because she's Elizabeth Bathory. Who I think ends up in another lesbian relationship with this like dark skinned girl. I think she's dark skinned. Who because there's like a weird amount of like homoeroticism surrounding Elizabeth Bathory, where she's like heavily implied to be a lesbian. In isolation. Oh yeah, Annette was race swapped to being Haitian, and then she has a friend who dies who is also Haitian, and they were former slaves. And yeah, so there's like a weird, you mean Erzbet Bartley, as the English versions calls them. Yes, exactly. Yes. Well, they say Erzbet Battery, I believe, instead of Bartley, but yes, you've nailed it. So, yeah, this hits like every spectrum. Like, this hits a weird amount of diversity as far as like sexuality and ethnicity and race goes. And I'm not opposed to these presentations, but also keep in mind that this is like 17th century, like 18th century France. It does feel bizarrely out of places at times, and it does, especially when you hit Native American gay man, it feels like you're checking boxes. Like, I'm fine with representation, that is fine. When it feels like you're checking boxes, I'm starting to get like, because then it's starting to affect your storytelling. And I think the amount of like over representation they do to this does start to affect the storytelling. And to the point where I think there's two main factors we have to talk. One of which is from a meta perspective, where I want to talk about Annette becoming Haitian. And the other one is I want to talk about Drolta being black, because Drolta should not be black logically. But anyway, the lesbian Bathory thing goes back to this horny ass 70s Hammer horror movies. A lot of lesbian vampires back then, and Bathory was a favorite pull. I did not know that. I will say that the real Elizabeth Bathory did primarily kill young women. So I think making her a lesbian isn't crazy. I don't think that's crazy. I think eroticizing her murder of young women is not out of left field, and I understand it. What I'm saying is that I think when you compound it with every other like race swap or diversity ad that they have to the show, I think it compounds into a product that feels more like a checklist than something that was done with actual genuine intention. But all right, so from a representation aspect, they made Annette a former slave Haitian woman. This means that her form of magic that she uses primarily is related to voodoo. Now, a lot of times when race swapping is done, it is done for the purposes of inclusivity and representation. And I will say one thing from a narrative perspective, which is when... Oh, fuck. What? Oh, God. Sypha. When Sypha used her magic, she didn't, like, start chanting, like, some bullshit whenever she cast her spell. She just did, like, fucking finger things. And you see this in Just and in Richter. When they use their spells, they just do shit. But every single time Annette uses a spell, she calls out to the voodoo, the voodoo deity of Papa Legba, like, every fucking time. And it's like... It feels like they're trying to call attention to how much fucking voodoo she's using. And it is fucking weird. And it feels inconsistent with the magic we've seen from the rest of the series. But also I want to say that because this show is so inclusive that they're clearly trying to be inclusive. In which I will say that this is another issue I've seen, which is that because the idea of inclusivity and representation is supposed to be respecting cultures, I do feel the need to point out that it is actually politically incorrect to use voodoo in your media, because voodoo is a closed religion which is not open to new converts. And thus forth, it is supposed to be, and voodoo practitioners prefer for you to keep it out of media usage. So in their attempts to being inclusive, they ended up becoming offensive to the people they're representing. You gotta watch that shit. Now, personally, I don't think any religion, closed or not, should be above representation in media. So I personally don't give a shit that they used voodoo. But what I'm saying is, since their intention was so clearly to give representation to a culture, they should be aware that the culture they attempted to represent with Annette does not want them to represent them. A few months back, I played the Punisher arcade beat 'em up with my brother, and I saw white Nick Fury, and I was like, whoa, yeah, Nick Fury used to be white. Alright, so here's the thing. Controversial. You know I hate on race swaps all the time. I do like black Nick Fury way better. I'm sorry, I just do. White Nick Fury has no flavor. Samuel L. Jackson fucking kills it, and I love it. I believe in the comics he's like... They added him, but he's like Nick Fury Jr., which is a good way to bring Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury into the comics without breaking like 30 years of comic history. He's genuinely better black. I'm with you. He is. I agree. I'm fully with it. I'm fully on it. All right. I shouldn't admit this. I should not admit this, but... The amount I care about you race swapping a character is, if I'm being totally honest with you, inversely proportional to how much I care about that character. Because modern media has decided that Jimmy Olsen is just black now, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm good with that. I like that. I like it. I prefer Jimmy Olsen being black. Let him be black. Fuck it. And I'm very much the same way with like Nick Fury. But I realized that if they were like, you know who's blacking out? Wonder Woman. I'd be like, get the fuck out of here. Fuck you. And I think there's a certain level of like how iconic is the character that like contributes to it. About how upset I would be in the scenario. But yeah, it like with Annette, it is a very interesting example because it is like a core aspect of the character in the show, and I don't think it plays well. And I think it is like mildly offensive. I'm personally not offended, but I do know that the culture of voodoo and voodoo representatives have been offended by the use of it in media, especially as like a form of like black magic, which is sort of portrayed in the show. So this is another example of a show that tries to be so inclusive it ends up becoming absolutely offensive. Anyway, let's talk about Drolta being black. Drolta is supposed to be a priestess of Sekhmet, which is an Egyptian goddess. That's why Vice City is heavily censored. What do you mean? Because it tried to be so inclusive it was offensive? Holy shit. Is my voice back? Oh my god. Holy shit, it just blew out. Oh, to answer your question, mate, no, I should not be doing this. Why? Was it so inclusive that it became offensive? Because I see that all the time. I always tell that like article I read about like a valedictorian who claimed that science was sexist against women because it science prioritized logic, and like the implication is that women are inherently illogical. And I'm like, wow, that is fucking. I can't believe she said that. I can't believe that like that's like a feminist point. That's like, hey, you can't use logic. I'm a woman. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Oh, I was offended. And I'm never offended. Because you fight a Haitian gang in that game. They drive a car called a Voodoo, and their missions are Tommy being hypnotized with via Voodoo to kill his allies, and the Haitians freak the fuck out. Yeah, of course they did. Of course they did. Yeah, Haitians fucking hate Voodoo portrayals. That's why I'm actually shocked this show didn't get more shit for Annette. I know Cyberpunk, I think, got shit for the Voodoo Boys, which is crazy because the Voodoo Boys, I don't think the Voodoo Boys actually do Voodoo in Cyberpunk. But, like, yeah, so, yeah, it's one of those things where it feels very offensive because they clearly didn't do the research on the culture they were trying to represent. Rexstar edited out the game afterwards. Oh, shit, I did not know that. I still have the PS2 copy of that game. I wonder if it's different if I got, like, the PC version. You can probably get a mod to edit it back in. Anyway, yeah, Drolta's black. She shouldn't be. So, Drolta being a black priestess of Sekhmet was already kind of shaky as a grounds for a character. So, basically, Drolta's idea is that she was a priestess of Sekhmet in ancient Egypt. And this is acceptable enough until you get to a certain point of the show where you get a flashback of when Drolta became a vampire. So, for those who are unaware of the history of Egypt, and I'm not an expert myself, Egypt got fucking conquered like a bunch of times. They lost a lot of wars. And so it is not clear whether the original inhabitants of Egypt were black or not. I'm okay with the portrayal that they were. That's fine. It's no big deal. Anyway, they got conquered by the Greeks, which is sort of important when you get into sort of like the Ptolemaic dynasty, which Cleopatra was famously part of the Ptolemaic dynasty, which is why there was such a big hubbub about that like Jada Pinkett Smith documentary where it was called like African Queens, and then they showed Cleopatra being a black woman because she was sort of famously not a black woman. But anyway... Reminds me, I watched Armitage 3 where the villains are like feminist, and initially I thought I'd be more offended by that until I thought more heavily on it. And this group of feminists who are trying to erase a group of women, in this case robots, because they do not deem them as real women. So Armitage 3, accidentally forward thinking. There you go. Anyway, yeah, so it's also worth noting that like Sekhmet is sort of like an ancient Egyptian goddess. Anyway, the flashback shows Drolta becomes a vampire in like the 1100s. Cleopatra was Greek, right? Yes, she was. Yeah, she was part of the Ptolemaic dynasty. So she would have been, like, theoretic. Like, okay, so here's the deal. Like, Greek people have a sort of, like, olive skin tone, naturally. So not, like, full-on white, but, excuse me, they're certainly not black by any metric. But also, worth noting that Cleopatra was a goddamn pharaoh. So she never left her fucking palace, except for whenever she was, like, fucking Caesar. Or Caesar, if you will. So, that bitch would have been pale as shit. I think she got thrown out of the palace by her sister at one point, maybe. I know Caesar did. But like, even then, like, she probably had a tan for like 10 seconds before it went back to white. Like, I'm telling you right now, Cleopatra would have been pale as shit. For sure. For absolutely sure. She would have been such a fucking pale woman. Anyway, point is, Drolta's flashback where she becomes a vampire is in the 1100s. And I guess there's nothing technically wrong about a black priestess in the 11, well, there kind of is, but we'll talk about that. Because theoretically, maybe her family came from like another country or whatever. But what I'm saying is that like the predominant ethnic group in Egypt in the 1100s were not black. They would have been like Arabic or Greek, probably Arabic. I would lean towards Arabic. I'm not an expert at the time period, but I know they weren't black. I will tell you that right now. So Drolta being a black woman, again, Drolta's design's fucking sick. I'm saying the issue is more with the flashback than anything. Is not historically accurate. And I know, I'm criticizing the historical accuracy of fucking Castlevania Nocturne, but shut up, hold up, hear me out here. Another issue with the 1100s is that she worships Sekhmet during the 1100s. That's not historically accurate. Now, I'm not sure what the predominant region in Egypt in the 1100s is. I would assume Islam. I'm going to look it up real quick, live. Maybe I'm going to eat my words live. Egypt, religion, 1100s. I'm going to say it's probably Islam. But I do know the 1100s was like the crusading period. So I'm not getting an answer real quick. Egypt came under the rule of the Ayyubids from Cairo. This dynasty fought against the Crusaders. Egypt became part of the Ottoman Empire. Wait, hold on. Let's see. Muslim conquest of Egypt, 639. Yeah, so yeah, Muhammad died in 632. So I'm leaning towards the predominant religion would have been Islam in that case. Yeah, probably. In the 1100s, I'm going to go Islam. That's my guess. Wait, hold up. Saladin. Yep. Yeah, it was for sure Islam. Yeah. So we have a black woman in the 1100s being a priestess of Sekhmet. Almost every part of that sentence is wrong. First off, she should have been like Arabic or Greek or something, right? Second off, she should have been Muslim. So like the whole concept doesn't make sense. Like every part of Drolta's backstory is super anachronistic. Is sort of the issue. It erased immediate red flags. Again, her designs are fucking killer. I don't have any issue with her designs or anything. But like, yeah, it's one of those situations where the story didn't have to expand on her backstory. If they were just like, Drolta is an ancient Egyptian priestess of Sekhmet, and they never showed anything about her beyond that. That was all we knew about her. I would have had zero fucking complaints about the character. The fact that they decided to show these flashbacks specifically is sort of what caused the fucking monkey wrench. I also thought it was interesting that we got to see Elizabeth, or Erzbet, I should say, become a vampire, because it shows that Drolta's like super older than her by like several hundred years, which I thought was interesting. The opposite problem of Johann Liebert. What's wrong with Johann Liebert besides everything I hate about Johann Liebert? Oh, yeah. There's a guy who becomes a night creature in this. He's also Haitian. He's an opera singer. He's kind of cool in concept, but there is a lot of inappropriate musical scenes in this show because of this guy. Like I know you're supposed to be feeling something and it's supposed to be invoking emotion. It really does feel like this show likes to break out in impromptu musicals fucking randomly. And I am not fond of that. Aside from being the worst villain I've ever seen. Erzbet's not cool. Like, when you compare Erzbet to Varney, or you compare him to, like, Dracula from the original show, Erzbet rolls up with the most fucking aura you've ever seen in this, like, fucking golden chariot, and the second she opens her fucking mouth, she just, like, does that thing where, like, old Castlevania had a lot of problems with it too, where she just, like, starts cursing and complaining about bullshit, and she ends up coming off as, like, a whiny, like, self-righteous, like, bitch. It's, like, it really kills the mystique of the character immediately. Like, and so when you see her do, like, the cool shit, like, eat a fucking fireball, like, eat the fireball, like, she's intimidating and she's powerful, but, like, she doesn't have it like the other series villains. Like I'm saying, also, for the longest time in Monster, you know so little about Johann, it's like you don't really know why you care after a while. Oh, yeah, that's fair. Yeah, no, exactly, yeah, less would have been more with Jolta. If we knew less about her, I think she would have been a cooler character. Because, now, I will say most people watching this aren't going to see a flashback where a black priestess of Sekhmet in the 1100s turns into a vampire and thinks, wow, everything about this is incorrect. Everything about this is an anachronism. That probably wouldn't hit most people, but for me, I'm like, wow, I have issues with this scene. I shouldn't barely know anything about the greatest villain in anime 5 volumes into a 9-volume series. But yeah, so all of the characters in this feel flat. There is a romance between Richter and Annette. These characters hate each other for most of season 1, and then randomly when Richter shows back up with his grandpa, she's like, I knew you'd come back, even though she's been like a huge bitch the entire time. And then they're just like randomly in love in season 2. It's like, because Annette is sort of like the girlfriend of Richter in the games, it felt like they needed to get that relationship in. But when you compare it to like the Trevor Sypha romance, it is so fucking poorly handled. It genuinely, Nocturne feels like they tried to recapture the magic of the original series, and they fucking had no idea what they're doing. Now, I believe the entire goddamn production staff changed, and that probably had something to do with it. I know the really controversial guy went to work on the Devil May Cry series, and I don't know what the fuck Warren Ellis is doing. Annette is just a damsel in distress in the game, one of several, actually. I don't know what to tell you. She's probably more interesting in the game in this. I find her really unlikable in this. There is an entire segment where Annette is like, I want to go into the church and I'm going to like rip the church down. And Richter's like, hey guys, can we have a plan before we go into the church? And then she calls him a coward. And then there's an entire scene where everyone shits on Richter for wanting to attack the main enemy base with a plan. Richter's like, hey, can we have a plan? And everyone's like, fuck you, Richter, you dumb coward bitch. No, we're just gonna go in there with our dicks out. And Richter's like, please, can we have a plan? I'm okay with going into the main base, but can we not go in there with our dicks out? And it really degrades every character in this entire show. Like I said, Maria's the huge highlight of this. Alucard in this is sort of like a standoffish guy. He's a lot less likable than the original series, but I'm okay with that because also the Alucard in this is like, what, fucking 400 years older? He's not the fucking, like, young gun 20-year-old he was in the original series. I'm okay if Alucard's a dick now. That's fine. It's fucking old man shouts at Cloud. To explain how bad the Devil May Cry show is, the opening theme is Rollin' by Limp Bizkit. Oh, I didn't watch the trailer. You get so much metal music from the games you could fucking use, and it shows a little fucking Limp Bizkit. I'm probably gonna watch it. But we'll see. Anyway, yeah, and then the plot is that Erzbet wants to become the vampire messiah, which is one of the stupidest fucking phrases I've ever heard. And she wants to drown out the sun, and she needs to reabsorb the 3 souls of Sekhmet. Oh, that... You know what? That's actually not terrible casting. I don't hate that. I don't hate that. I could see it. I could see him doing it. That's not terrible. You don't want to use Dante's actual voice because he's crazy. Is he? I haven't heard this. What's up with him? Anyway, yeah. So Castlevania Nocturne. It's a pale imitation. Hold on. Let's get fucking controversial. It's a pale, woke imitation of a much better original series. He's like a racist conspiracy theorist. Holy shit, dude. All right, with that, I'm going to end the Castlevania Nocturne. And let's talk about, before we go on, we're going to do a little addendum. We're going to talk about why I am moving. I'm not going to do a full pull out. If it becomes an issue, I'm going to bring it up. But Johnny Youngbush is Nero. That's my only issue. Fair enough. So let's talk about DEI and wokeness. So one thing I've always said is that I have nothing against representation or inclusion. I think it's good, but I think it needs to be done with intention, and I don't think you can just check boxes, because I think that causes a degradation in media and art presentation. But one thing I have also said is that, maybe I've never vocalized it, but it's something I've thought, is I was worried about an issue where, were the issue to turn around, there would get to a point where, because as you notice, more media is moving away from sort of like wokeness and DEI issues, that there will get to be a point where no lessons were learned and it goes in the opposite fucking direction, because humans are so fucking bad at finding a middle ground. And what I am concerned about, and why you will see me gradually almost flip sides from what I have been saying for the past several years, is that, again, I am on board for computer dyslexia. I'm on board for inclusion and representation, as long as it doesn't go so far in one direction. And now we're getting to a point where everyone's on the other end of that, and everything is getting looked through as like through the like lens of being woke or DEI or whatever. And I think that is a fucking dangerous direction to go in. Also, because when you start pivoting too far in the other direction, you, crazy enough, also end up back at racism. I just want to avoid the racism. I think if you go so far into the DEI woke area, you hit racism and sexism. And then if you go in the other direction, guess fucking what? You still hit it. I'm just trying not to hit it, right? So what I want to have happen, that's how you get whites only mindset. Exactly. I don't want that. I don't think that's good either. Right? I don't think the idea of everyone should be like gay, disabled, black women is like, I don't want that, but I don't want everyone to be just like straight white men either. I don't think that's interesting. I think that's a terrible fucking direction. What I want with representation and diversity is actual representation and diversity with a sort of like realistic tinge to it. I don't want it to feel like people are being checkboxed. Ideal scenario, you don't even think about it. Right? A character is whatever the character is. If that character's gay, it doesn't have to be important to the narrative. It can be if that's the kind of story you're trying to tell with the character. Because there is a place for a story about a character's own identity, and like being gay or being trans or being a woman or fuck even being black or white or whatever have you. There's a place for those stories. But if that's not what the story is about, then that aspect doesn't need to be in there. And the ideal scenario is that a character with that identity just has that identity as an aspect of their character rather than the focal point of that character. And a big issue with a lot of like woke media is that character becomes an epitomization of that aspect of the character. If a character is like black in a woke piece of media, they are literally a token black character, which is just as offensive when you were on the other side where they had a black character who had to stand in as a token black character. It is the same thing from different angles. You're not suddenly not tokenizing someone just because you're doing it from the perspective of black power. It's still a problem. It's still a problematic portrayal of media. And where I'm afraid media is going now that the side I've been basically fighting on for the past several years has more or less won is I'm worried we're going to go in the other direction. I'm worried we're only getting white, straight, cis people. And I'm worried that media is going to lose all the diversity and all the representation and the interesting aspects of stories and characters. And what I really want is just like a sort of blend where a character can just be a character regardless of whatever, I would argue in most cases, superficial aspects of their identity are. I want a world where a black character just happens to be black and they're a character first. And you didn't really get that in woke media, and I am honestly fucking terrified going forward that we're going to get the other problem where if a black character shows up, they're still just a fucking token, because now it's being portrayed from, people don't like diversity, so we have to go back to the old tropes. And I'm like, okay, well, this is also racist. Please stop. That's how you get the whites only mindset. And the real irony is that if you look at the 1800s and 1910s, if you were Irish, you weren't considered white. That is true. Excuse, if you've seen Irish people, they're hella pasty. You ever played Celeste? I've never played Celeste. I am aware that the main character is trans, and if I recall, if what I've heard is true, it's only like a minor part of the game, and I appreciate that. I think that's a great example of good representation. I love exactly that kind of thing, where it's just like, it's there, deal with it. It's not like a main focal point. Again, there's nothing wrong with it being the main focal point if that's the story you're trying to tell. The real issue is when like the characters like superficial identities become such a key aspect that is the definition of a character, especially if they're side cast. So if it's like a story of like coming out to your parents, yes, the main character should be gay, clearly. Yes, obviously. But if it's just like the main character's best friend, what does it great is like Invincible, where the main character's best friend is gay. That's fucking, I don't even think he was gay in the comic, for the record. I think they changed that for the show. And that's fucking fine, right? There's nothing wrong with it. I think that's absolutely acceptable. It's just like an aspect of the character. It's hardly like the most defining trait of William. Are you aware that people only found out via a tiny little flag in the cup of the pens, and people still freaked the fuck out? And that's actually, I would also argue, an exact kind of thing that I am honestly against. Is if anything, I would see that and I'm like, that's pretty neat. I appreciate that they did that. I like that. Like, I personally like that. Especially if it was such a minute detail. I think they could have been maybe a little more overt, but like I would have been okay with it being more overt. But if like it's such a minor detail, like that's good, if anything. Like I would argue that's how it should be handled. It should be sort of like a naturalistic part of the character. One thing I will always go for is a gold standard of representation. Is weirdly enough Infamous Second Son, where the main character is like Native American, like Native Indian, and like so's his brother, and they like live on a plantation, not a plantation. Oh my god, live on a Indian reservation, and it's handled so well because it's like it's an aspect of their characters. The game is about fighting people with superpowers and learning their superpowers, and it's so well handled. I love that. It does recontextualize some of the story, does it? So, and then that's honestly really, that's kind of cool too, honestly. I don't have any problem with it. Again, I want to be so clear, because I know that as I have been very anti-woke on multiple podcasts, I want to be clear. I'm actually inherently for representation and inclusivity. I want it to be handled with care and tact. And intention. And now that we're on the other end of everything going in that direction, we're starting to pivot in the other direction. And I have seen some of the fucking wildest takes where it's like, if they have a female main character in something, they're like, this is woke pandering bullshit. I'm like, no, dude, it's just got a female main character. Please calm the fuck down. Please, I don't want to go back. I don't want, why can no one ever learn their fucking lesson? Can't like the Matrix after you learn about his director. You know what? I have not seen the Matrix since they transitioned. Maybe I should rewatch with that perspective, though. I think that could be interesting. I've learned not to speak my opinion in this. Don't yell at me, please. That's all you're good, mate. I'm not going to yell at you. I'm just trying to get across like what my point is if you start seeing me suddenly pivot into being more woke over the next few years than I have been in the past, please be aware that I am the same amount of woke. It's just the culture has shifted. And so as I'm standing still, suddenly I look like I've swapped sides. So there we go. There's your speech. It's probably not as bad as everyone. The speech you were probably not worried about was me being like, I'm about to get way more woke. You're about to see me get real on board the diversity train all of a sudden. All right, let's move on. To Gentry, I don't remember how to say her last name. Gentry Chow versus the Underworld. This is a cartoon that aired on Netflix about a young Chinese American girl who was living in Korea. Shit, we back in the 90s. The 90s had the best representation, mostly. I don't know. Well, no, maybe not. No, it didn't. It didn't. No, because it was really offensive to like gay and trans people in the 90s, wasn't it? It had it had decent race relations in the 90s. Minus the cop things, obviously. But yeah, it was not great towards gay and trans people. See, this is why you can't go backward. This is why you can't go backward. Don't go backward. Stop going backward. Oh yeah, Black Market V1. Anyway, this is, about a Chinese American girl who lived in Korea very briefly for like episode 1, and then she goes back to America. And she has the powers of the Yellow Emperor, which give her like horrible super fire powers and the ability to teleport. Crazy part about this is she ends up getting trained by her grandma, who like dies in like episode 1. They say time is like a river. I've heard that. This show is actually pretty fucking good. I really enjoyed it. She has like 2 primary love interests, one of which starts with another girlfriend, and the other one is like a demon who's just like trying to betray her and is working for the main villain. And somehow they make both aspects work, and they make every character in this likable. The biggest character flaw about Gentry herself is that she's very impulsive and she makes snap decisions, and she absolutely refuses to hear other people out when they're trying to give her explanations. She's also like a young teenager, and I think this is a very realistic character flaw. So I don't hold it against her. I think she's very realistically written. I appreciate how the love interests are handled. There's a lot of conflict in them, but it doesn't usually feel artificial, because it feels in line, because even the parts where it's coming from Gentry's own personality feel in line with her as her own character. The show kind of ends without a cliffhanger, and that is almost disappointing, because I would actually love if this got a sequel. This was a very solid show all around. Solid action scenes, a lot of plot twists. There's not a lot to engage with anymore as this goes on. So if this was the end, I guess it wouldn't be the worst thing. I think it would probably be better that it ended here rather than the show gets ran into the ground. Solid opening also. I will say that for this show. It was very good all around. Also, you know what? While we're talking about it, while we're talking representation and inclusivity, great example in this show right here. Very diverse cast. No complaints about it. Just thought I'd put it out there. That's right. It's a good thing. Now, see, that's right. We've swapped sides already. Already swapped sides. Now I'm being like, hey, I liked it. Yeah, no, just a solid all-around show. I thought I'd have more to say, but I'm actually so sick that I think my brain is scrambled, if I'm being totally honest. It's not the alcohol. I'm like, maybe I'm a little tipsy. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little tipsy. But, like, compared to, like, normal, like, I've had a beer. is essentially it. Like, y'all have seen me way drunker, is what I'm fucking saying. I have never listened to a single Tool song, I'm assuming. Or I'm wrong, and I didn't realize it was a Tool song. I've seen you so drunk you became Southern. Yeah, that's not likely to happen when I'm drinking beers. So, like I said, I'm too fucking sick to get, like, shit-faced. So this is what you're getting tonight. It's good to see I could still go on a huge fucking rant while sober, though. I would argue I am pretty sober. Is it weird that I'm getting more okay with this as I drink? That's me. Anyway, this is saying about Gentry Trail. Oh, yeah. This is a really good show. There's a lot of interesting aspects. There's a lot of plot twists. It kept me on the edge of my seat. This is one of those shows. Alcohol's not your thing. Hey, you know what? That's a good thing. Alcohol's not actually my thing either. I'm a bit of a happy drunk, and I think it, like, escalates the entertainment factor of the streams. But, like, genuinely, pretty much I only drink whenever I do this show. Like, this show exclusively. That and if a game is... It's just so bad, and only then on stream if the game is so bad. No, I'm being dead ass. I'm being as serious as possible. Here's the dark secret. I'm gonna ruin everyone. The dark secret is I genuinely only drink on stream, and it is almost exclusively during this. So. I'm sorry. I'm sorry everyone's delusions of me being an alcoholic is ruined. But anyway, yeah, Gentry Chow, watch it. If you have Netflix, watch it. Okay, I'm going to be real. This show is a Netflix exclusive. Look at you, East Coast ass motherfucker. I feel so called out. This show is a Netflix exclusive. Castlevania is a Netflix exclusive. If you had to watch this or Castlevania Nocturne, watch this. That's my pitch to you right there. It's better than Castlevania Nocturne. All right, moving on. I think we're moving on. I wish I had more to say, but I think I'm. It's been so long. I think I'm too drunk to say anything. I'm not drunk. I mean, I'm too sick. God, now I'm curious if I've ever said anything that people have been like, okay, Portlander. Oh, yeah, speaking of Netflix shows, I watched Hoops. All right. I have said this before, that with anime, I enjoy watching pure garbo sometimes. Sometimes you gotta watch some trash. Well, guess what? That extends to my Western media consumption as well. Sometimes I just want to watch some trash. Excuse me. So I watched Hoops. Hoops is an adult Netflix comedy. And I'm going to tell you right now, this image partially makes me uncomfortable, but I think it's a great representation of the show. I want you to look at this for a brief second, and there you go. You've got it. You have... Seth MacFarlane's illegitimate brainchild is a great description of Hoops. Yeah, Hoops is as fucking shitty as it looks. So basically, the main character is a basketball coach for I want to say high school basketball team. And he wants to get like a 7-foot kid to join his basketball, and he does anything he can to get this kid. Like, he hires like a prostitute friend of his and shit. He is an absolutely terrible, irredeemable character. Although I will say one episode does give an interesting perspective. By the way, this show was canceled after one season. Shocker. Oh, by the way, so was Captain Fall, disappointingly enough, and I gave that show a glowing review. But anyway, this show I'm not shocked was canceled after one season. Anyway, regardless, like 90% of the shit on Netflix. Yes, exactly. Yeah, but in the example of Captain Fall, that show was actually like surprisingly good and just looked like it would be random adult comedy Netflix trash. They also canceled BoJack early, and that show was like legitimately well regarded, and they just did that because they had animation studio complaints or not complaints, issues. They wanted to cheapen their animation studios. Yeah, this is a very disposable show. Anyway, main character is a huge piece of shit. There is an interesting flashback episode where you find out he's only a piece of shit because his ex-wife, who's now a better person, actually turned him into a piece of shit, and he actually used to be a much better person, which I think was sort of an interesting exploration of a character. His ex-wife is also dating his best friend slash assistant coach, which enters into a weird relationship dynamic where ultimately I would argue the main character ends up betraying his best friend by sleeping with his ex-wife. But regardless, we're moving on. He's sort of like a manipulative scumbag. Very unlikable character. Disposable might as well call them Fujifilm Quick Snap. I do not get the joke. But what I will say is that despite this looking like as made, you have described it. What did you describe this as? Seth MacFarlane's illegitimate brainchild. Disposable camera. Oh, okay. This is one of the most inclusive shows I've ever watched. Or should I say, like, it is like you would expect this show to move on a lot of like shock humor. And it kind of does to a point, but like you'd expect it to be like racist and sexist and transphobic and homophobic, but it's like, especially the main character is like weirdly accepting of other people's cultures and stuff like that. Like it never moves into any of the more offensive types of humor. I mean, it does in that there's like dead body, gross out shit. But like, shockingly enough, like one of the like players on the team is gay, and the show is just like willing to accept that aspect of the character. It's never becomes the punchline, is what I'm saying. When diversity comes up in the show, it is never the punchline, and it is like shockingly well handled. I think there actually is a trans character also in this that, like, I'm not necessarily the best person to speak on this, but I think it was handled relatively well in a way that you would not expect disposable Netflix garbage trash show to actually be shockingly good at handling its diverse cast. The show looks like it would be in the same regard as Mr. Bertram. It looks like it would be, but it isn't. Is the weird part. It is like weirdly, well, okay, I mean, it's terrible. I mean, I don't want to chalk it up. It's terrible. It's a fucking garbo show. But it handles its cast very well. And I will say that, how do I want to say this? Minorities, maybe not. I know the like colloquial term is like marginalized. It never when it makes fun of people who are like minorities or marginalized, it never makes the fact that they are in a minority group the punchline of the joke. It is always an aspect of the character that is the joke, and I think as far as that goes, I think the show handles that very well. They're both bad, so they have that in common. That is true. I don't want to give anyone any false hope. The show does suck, in fact, but I did like the way that it handled that character. I did like that that when the characters were the punchlines, it wasn't because of an aspect of their identity. It was because the characters themselves were the punchlines. Yes, South Park does do that. South Park's a weird one, actually. South Park punches down a lot. Yeah, you would not expect that Hoops doesn't, but South Park does. The weird thing I will say about South Park's weird because South Park punches down at everyone. So it almost feels as if it's not offensive because it's inclusive in the fact that it is willing to attack everyone and make fun of everyone. But then there's also this sort of like weird through line, which is that in a way South Park is a way for the creators. Trey Parker and it's Trey Parker and Matt Stone, Like South Park's got the weird through line where it's like Trey Parker and Matt Stone's mouthpiece. So there's this weird line in South Park where it's never quite clear if they're making that community the butt of a joke because they do that to everyone and that's part of the joke, or if it's coming from a sort of like genuine discontentment and intolerance. I think South Park was better when Trey and Matt were in poor Phil school, but the richer they got, the less biting the show gets. That's why I find Cannibal the Musical to be the best work, because that's pre-South Park shit, and it's really funny. So the thing about South Park is it all felt acceptable until the episode where there's like a Man Bear Pig episode where they acknowledge that Man Bear Pig is real, and Man Bear Pig is an allegory for global warming. Now I'll talk a little bit. I'll talk some shameful facts about global warming in a second, but with the revelation that like Man Bear Pig is like a real physical entity in the universe of South Park, and that is an allegory for global warming, is the episode where Matt and Trey reveal that they've reversed their course on their opinions of global warming, which means like they didn't believe in global warming basically until that episode came out. Maybe a bit earlier, obviously, because they had to make the episode. Maybe it took them a while to get around to it. But basically, they like publicly reversed their opinions on global warming. And then that's really a sort of like eye-opening episode for me as far as like South Park goes. That's one of the later episodes, because that goes to show that like the South Park episodes, like South Park as a series, isn't just making fun of people equally, it's also a mouthpiece for the creators. And when it becomes a mouthpiece for the creators, you have to wonder, well, how much of what the show is actually saying is things the creators actually believe that they're hiding under the guise of being a joke. So yeah, ever since that episode and that like sort of realization, there's a sort of like, I don't know, weird veneer of South Park for me, where it's like, well, hold on. Like when they say, when they're like put Cartman, like I understand Cartman's like the bad guy, but like when they put it in the mouthpiece of another character, for example, is that something they actually believe? Who fucking knows? And I think there's a weird line blurring in that where it's hard to tell necessarily where the creators are coming from. And I think it adds a weird, I don't know, stank. My brain says stank to the whole series. If you want to see an episode that was so bad it wasn't even indebted when it came out, the one where they make fun of anti-smoking campaigns. I haven't seen the first 3 seasons, and then I think I stopped after like 22. So I've seen between season 4 and season 22, I think. Season 21. I'll say season 21. They shit on Rob Reiner. The main joke is that he's fat. It's so bad it's like shit isn't outdated because it wasn't even indated when it came out. Alright, let's talk about Man Bear Pig. This is like season 6 or 7. Oh, then I've probably seen the episode. I probably just don't remember it too much. Alright, let's talk about Man Bear Pig. Let's talk about global warming. I'm going to give a shout out to someone real quick. Okay, so here's my shout out. When I was younger, I didn't necessarily disbelieve in global warming, but I was skeptical of it. Allow me to explain. So from a historical perspective in global warming, the idea is that the Earth goes through periods of heating and cooling. If you study history, you will actually notice that this is actually fairly common. So for example, there are like ancient Chinese legends about the Sanzuwu. Hope that wasn't the Japanese term. I want to say Sanzuwu. Sanzuwu. Yes, the Sanzuwu, which are like 3-legged crows. Ancient Chinese myth about 10 Sanzuwu, which were 3-legged crows, which like shined with the brilliance of the sun. And at one point they were all 10. There were 10 of them. They were lured down and they scorched the earth. And then like the celestial archer like killed like all but one of them, and that's why we only have one sun. And this is sort of a legend to legitimize the fact that during the like very early periods, like the 500 zones, that the Earth was like unreasonably hot, like so fucking hot it was crazy. But then you go over to like the 1500s, there was a period of time where the Earth was just unreasonably cold, which was referred to as like the Little Ice Age, where shit got super fucking cold. So you notice, if you explore through history, and you can find other examples of this, that the Earth goes hot, then cold, then hot, then cold, then hot, then cold. And if you know anything about sun cycles, the sun also goes hot, then cold, then hot, then cold, then hot, then cold, then hot, then cold. And these actually do coincide with the historical events prescribed in ancient historical events of the world getting super hot and then the world getting super cold. So, I come from a pretty liberal shocking, I know. I believed and still do believe in human-caused climate change. Hey, don't worry. We're getting to that. Anyway, the point is, from a historical perspective, I as a teenager, was pretty well versed in history, and I was aware of these facts. And so here's the thing. My stance was that I was unsure if global warming was real or not, just because also it's worth noting that I was under the belief at the time that a lot of global warming data was based on meteorological data that scientists had been collecting, and I was under the belief that this data started around when meteorology as a science began, which was like early 1900s. Meteorology is a very inexact science even nowadays. It's not necessarily the most reliable, and so I was very skeptical about the data that was being collected, the sources of it, and the look of the perspective of it from a historical perspective. So on the other hand, I was very much for green energy transitions because I did not want to be wrong, or I was not willing to be. I was not willing to be wrong, is what I'm saying. I was like, look, I don't know if global warming is real or not. I'm going to be honest with you. What I am going to say is, but this has nothing to do with hoops. What I am going to say is this has nothing to do with hoops. What I do think we should do is transition to green energy, because if it fucking is real, it's better to be safe than sorry and have the world on fire. Anyway, there is a absolutely fantastic video by the YouTuber Up Is Not Jump. Absolutely fantastic YouTuber, for the record. And the video is amazing, and I highly recommend it. I'll see if I can find it real quickly. Very hesitant to get a COVID vaccine. I just felt like it was rushed out, and I have pretty bad medical anxiety, so I was very afraid of the possibility rush shit out and they missed something important. And honestly, I took the COVID vaccine. I'm very afraid of it. If you will remember, I had a bad reaction to it, and I ended up in the hospital from it. So, yeah. I got vaccinated. I never got the boosters. I got the initial shot. I never got the boosters, for obvious fucking reasons. It was very rare that people had a negative reaction to the COVID shot, but I will say that I think this is a bit of a different circumstance, because a lot of it was based off of pre-made vaccines that we already had, which is part of why it got through so quickly. But I am skeptical of the long-term outcomes of it. Excuse me. I would not be shocked if there ends up being negative repercussions to the vaccine years down the line that we don't know about yet. My brother had a light allergic reaction. Yeah, if you remember, I was sent to the hospital. If everyone remembers that. So. Here we go. The video is called Climate Change is an Absolute Nightmare. This is why, by Up Is Not Jump. It came about 4 years ago. This video is fucking fantastic. I highly recommend it to basically everyone. If you are a climate change believer, I recommend it to you just so you can get more versed on the concept. And if you are a climate change denier, I very much recommend it, because I am not fucking with you when I say that this man debunked literally every single fucking thing I had ever thought of. So he actually talks about sun cycle heating, which was one of the things I used to have brought up. And he actually points up that there was a period of heating, but currently the Earth should be in a period of cooling due to the sun cycle. Like, we hit the peak heat, but we've, for the past like decade or so, been in the period where it should be cooling down, and it is so clearly getting hotter still. And I was under the erroneous belief that the meteorological data that we were using for global warming was based off of data collected when the science began in around the 900s, unaware that a lot of fucking sailors had been logging meteorological data and like water temperatures and air temperatures for hundreds of years before that in their journals, because as he described it, they had nothing fucking better to do at the time. So the data isn't as brief or as recent as I necessarily suspected. And he basically addresses any point you could fucking imagine. It is an absolutely fantastic video. I highly recommend the Up Is Not Jump video, whatever I just said it was. Climate change is an absolute nightmare, and this is why. You know what? You know what? Let me do this live. I'm going to do this. Video was... Shh. It's sponsored by Skillshare. I'm going to do this live. I'm going to post this right on the Discord live. Check that out. Check that video out. Fucking amazing. He also made a school-friendly version if you need to do a school-friendly version, I guess. But that's why the world's going to explode one day. A hentai. Anyway, check that out. Great video. Yeah, climate change. Definitely real. I have no counter arguments against it anymore. Definitely real, for sure. Again, I've always been on board for green energy. Now, we want to talk green energy, specifically A Time to Screw. Now, we want to talk about green energy. We got to get nuclear, baby. Here is a fun fact. People are always complaining about nuclear waste. We have the technology to reuse nuclear waste as fuel. And there is enough nuclear waste to power the Earth for the next 100 years. My state is powered by hydroelectric. I can't hate hydro. Realistically, the problem with hydro is it doesn't... The problem with wind, solar, and hydro is it doesn't provide as much energy as nuclear. If we're going to transition to... Here's the thing. If every fucking country just built a nuclear reactor right the fuck now, we could reduce emissions like over fucking night. Like, the benefits of nuclear are so vastly outweigh any of the potential risks. A big citation is like, oh, but what about the Fukushima disaster? But like, I heard... Pretty sure no one died in Fukushima, actually. Nobody died as a direct result of Fukushima. Although 2,000 died by suicide, stress, and interruption of medical care, which is not dying as a result of Fukushima. In fact, if you actually look at the causes of deaths, Metal Gear fan somehow is present. I am a supporter of nuclear energy. I am not a supporter of nuclear weapons. There is a complete difference. But yeah, actually, if you compare the amount of deaths that each individual energy source causes yearly, you will actually find out that nuclear energy is the safest energy source of all of them. And that includes wind and solar. Not even to mention coal and oil. It is safer than even technically greener energy sources. I'm imagining because there's less falling off of roofs. If I had to wonder why that number is the way it is, I assume a lot of people fall off of solar panels. Is what I imagine the problem is. Anyway, so we need nuclear if Earth is going to progress in a more green direction. There's no way around it. Absolute worst thing we can do is get more oil or coal, Donald Trump. We don't need to talk anymore about that. I think we all know that the Trump presidency is already a fucking shit show and the country's doomed. Okay, moving on. Movies. I watched Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves. I believe this was talked about on an old episode of Cold Podcast. On the old episode of good old Cold Podcast. You saw this? All right. I am going to say something controversial. I didn't really like it that much. Didn't really enjoy it that much. It does hit a lot of hallmarks of like D&D classics. It's very Forgotten Realmsy, by the way, because it has like a Red Wizard of Thay. I was shocked that Saz-Tam was like physically in this, even though he didn't do anything. Because let's be real, if Saz-Tam was actually in this, he would fucking murder everyone in the entire cast. What I remember about the 1980s Dungeons & Dragons characters show up briefly. But yeah, the main character is like a bard, but he doesn't use magic. Apparently that was an intentional thing because they didn't want him to... They didn't want every member of the cast to be magical. I get that. Yeah, you know what? The whole crux of this is supposed to connect with this like guy's journey to like reclaim his daughter. I didn't really care about that. I didn't really care about any of the characters, and I barely cared about what was happening, if I'm being totally honest. I felt myself like not really engaged in it. It almost felt sort of like a spectacle. And maybe that's because I'm coming at it from the aspect of a Dungeons and Dragons fan, that I felt that the movie sort of, I don't know, just did not hold my attention or necessarily like, my brain fell off. I'm sorry. I'm so sick right now. Never get the red mage in Final Fantasy is just D from Vampire Hunter D, but with red instead of black. But like, yeah. So I never really felt like super engaged with the plot. I did think it was sort of, I thought it was sort of humorous that they like used the Aarakocra to like crash out of the window, and then they were going to get a pardon anyway. But it did feel like a bunch of like, I don't know, fuck up adventurers take on like super mage. Like that's like the whole plot. I don't know. Like part of it just felt lackluster to me. It is hard to describe. Like it's not like the show, like the movie does anything necessarily incorrect. I just felt like it didn't do things that I liked enough for me to end up actually liking it. It felt very shallow, I guess I should say. Do I have anything else to say about this? Probably not. Frankly, if we don't get through this stream soon enough, I'm going to have fucking problems because I am so sick. Alright. Let's talk about albums. I listened to the Marshall Mathers LP2. Let me remind myself what these songs were. Bad Guy, Parking Lot, Rhyme or Reason, So Much Better, Survival, Legacy, Asshole, Berserk, Rap God, Brainless, Stronger Than I Was, The Monster, So Far, Love Game, Headlights, Evil Twin. Whoa, boy. Okay. Fuck, I don't even remember what I was going to say about this. Wasn't the one that was, like, weirdly unfocused? Or... Yeah, so this is Survival, that song I only remember for being in the Call of Duty trailers. Yeah, so, you know what? I can't give a grave review of this. I will tell you this, I didn't fucking like it. I wish I could do better. I watched this, I listened to this I almost listened to this, I want to say, like, the night after the original ending of the podcast. And I remember not liking this, but I don't remember. Is this the one where my issue was that it was super inconsistent, or is that Revival? I think it was this one. I think this is the one where, like, there's some good songs on this, but there's, like, no through line to the whole album. Excuse me. Where he, like, is this the one where he kept changing genres annoyingly? I think this is the one where he couldn't pick a consistent sound for the fucking album. That might have been Revival, but I think this is the one where he couldn't pick a fucking consistent sound for the entire album, and it ended up sounding like shit as a whole project. Bad Guy, I remember starting as a pretty good song. where Eminem was talking about like his insecurities and shit, and then it sort of like does a switch at the end, and the second half was like fucking terrible. It very like from what I recall. No. Yeah, Bad Guy was the one where it starts off with Stan's brother. Yes, it is the one that starts off with Stan's brother. And then at the end of it, it's Eminem battling his alter ego Slim Shady in his head. Yeah, that's right. So the start where it's Stan's brother and Eminem is in the trunk, I think that's totally fine. But when the song peels its veneer back and shows that it's just a metaphor for Eminem battling with himself, that's when it like goes to shit. Like there's no fucking subtlety. And then he just like swaps genres. Like Berserk is like, he even mentions in the song Berserk that it's just like a summer bop. It feels, I know people are like really gung-ho on this album, but it feels exactly like every other Eminem album basically feels like. There's no theme, there's no through line, which is crazy because I think in Revival he criticizes other people for being incapable of putting together an album. This motherfucker cannot put together a consistent fucking project. He cannot stay on topic. His shit flies through so much bullshit so fucking quickly. Like Bad Guy is a sequel to Stan, and then the second half of the song complains about himself, and then Berserk is just like a summer bop by his own admission, and then Rap God is just him fucking showing off his rhyming skills. Although, you know what? I had issues with Rap God when it came out, and you know what? As we're getting more into this Eminem thing, you know what? I'm going to start fucking calling Eminem out. Eminem is not half as good as people say he is, and he's not a fucking quarter of good as he fucking thinks he is. Because when you look at the rhyme scheme of Rap God, some of the shit he's rhyming isn't even real fucking words. Like, Eminem has this bad habit over the course of all of his albums, and this is especially egregious in Marshall Mathers LP2, where he is clearly saying words and phrases specifically to make a rhyme, and not because it adds anything to the verse or the story. He just says bullshit so it rhymes. He cares so much about creating a clever rhyme scheme, and he's put so much attention into his rhyme schemes that the lyrics themselves almost fade to the background. And this is almost has become a persistent issue as we get into the second half of the Eminem saga. Actually, it was kind of a problem in the original half. You know what? Is that I often was like, hey, Eminem's a great rapper, but as I'm like really diving into him, Eminem is like the fucking second coming of Tupac. Like, he has really great singles, but if you ask this man to make an album, he cannot string together a fucking coherent thought throughout the entire fucking thing. He's so bad at it. It is so impressively bad. I've never seen an artist so consistently be incapable of staying on message. Part 1 starts with them pointing out that Eminem is peak spiritual lyrical miracle. Well, of course he is. He's the one who created that phrase. Although, the important part about him creating that phrase is that he actually did it as part of a freestyle. So, but anyway, yeah. So, like, Eminem, he just says shit to make rhymes is part of the thing. This album wasn't able to stay on a consistent topic. It wasn't able to stay on a consistent sound. I don't know why this gets so much praise. I don't, like... God, if you ever want to get disillusioned with Eminem as an artist, listen to like his fucking albums, like all the way through. It is fucking bad. It's like it's unlistenable. It is genuinely a terrible experience. It's the Marshall Mathers LP2. I was not fucking fun. I still like the individual songs in this. I think Berserk is an okay song. The Monster's good. The best part about this. Oh yeah, oh god, yeah. Wasn't Love Game. I don't even really like Kendrick Lamar. If I remember correctly, Kendrick Lamar is the best part of Love Game. Like, I don't even like Kendrick, and he's still the best part of the entire fucking song. Yeah, this was not it. This was not it for sure. Oh god. All right, moving on from the Marshall Mathers LP2. All right, we got Revival. Revival. Everyone hates Revival. Did I like Revival? Not really. Pretty sure that phrase is older. I have heard. Well, let's find out. Eminem used it in a cipher in 2001, but Joe Budden claimed it was earlier. This Reddit user claims it was in Time to Chill from, I guess, Will Smith. Maybe it was a Will Smith lyric first. Boogie Down, Duck Down was a KRS-One song in 1992. It might be a Will Smith lyric. I'm going to be real, it might be a Will Smith lyric. This person claims it was a Will Smith lyric. So, okay, Eminem did it in 2001. I would definitely argue he popularized it since he did it in 2001. But apparently, it was also done by Big Noid, KRS-One, and it was probably originally Will Smith in 1988. So, there you go. Okay. Jay-Z's pretty old. Oh, Jazzo. Hold on. When did this song come out? $1990. No. Yeah, still. So, it's a Will Smith lyric, probably. Crazy enough, it's a Will Smith lyric. There you go. Now we know. Anyway. What the fuck were we talking about? Oh, yeah, Revival. Yeah, everyone hates this album. Did I like it? Not really. I'd like to go against the grain and be like, hey, Revival is actually a secretly good Eminem album, and I'm the opposite of an Eminem fan. No, it's not great. The biggest issue I have with Revival... By the way, I actually like Walk on Water. Fuck you. Anyway, the biggest issue I have with Revival is on this Eminem album, Eminem criticizes people for like modern rappers. That might have been Kamikaze that he did that, but he will at some point criticize modern rappers for not being able to stay on topic for an entire album. This album has two fucking topics. The big part about this album is a talk about his past and his insecurities, and stuff like that. And the other half of the album is like fuck Trump. Is like the big thing. He's like, I don't like right people who lean right politically. Fuck them. And he just like jumps back and forth. Like it's very, if he had picked one, it would have been a better album. Like literally either one, I would have been more on board for the album. The fact that he can't pick a fucking topic is such a huge issue with this. It's very like unfocused. Is the big problem with it. Sonically, it's not the worst thing ever, unless this is the one with the country song, in which case it is in fact the worst thing ever, but I actually think that's Marshall Mathers LP too. But oh, fuck me. Which is ironic because so many conservative rappers love him. Well, because he's white, though. They don't give a shit about what he has to say. They love him because he's white. Yeah, I said it. I think a lot of conservative rappers are racists. Anyway. Or are pretending to be racist to pander to real racists. Yeah, that's right. I said it. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, this album is very unfocused. I think this album would be better suited if you just picked a fucking topic. If this was about Eminem and his past relationships and his insecurities and making good with the people he's wronged in the past, that would be a better album. If this was an entire album about how fucking Trump sucks, also better, honestly, than what we ended up getting with this like unfocused hodgepodge slapstick bullshit. This is also one of the prevalent issues with Eminem albums, is that all of his albums are too fucking long. How long is this? 77 minutes. cut the album in fucking half. Make 2 good albums instead of 1 shitty album. Hey, Mac here, what's going on? I'm super sick. How are you doing? I have a fever, so we're drinking something that is alcoholic because I have to, but less alcoholic than normal. Anyway, yeah, this isn't good. I wanted to like it just to be a contrarian because everyone else doesn't like it, but I'm going to surprise you when I say that everyone who says this album isn't good is right, and this album is in fact not good. I think there's some solid songs on here. Like I said, people hate Walk on Water. I like Walk on Water. I like that song. I think that's a pretty solid song. I'm worried for his well-being. Don't worry. Don't worry. I'm going to have a nice rest after this. So anyway, we'll be fine. But yeah, Revival, it wasn't good. I wanted it to be, but it wasn't. Eminem is the most of all. Eminem not sucking is actually more disappointing than Tupac sucking. I'm gonna be honest with you, but I think we're gonna move on. I don't have a lot to say because I don't remember a lot. All right, let's talk about it. Eminem, Kamikaze. All right. First off, Kamikaze is the best Eminem album we've gotten in a while. Speaking of Beastie Boys. Kamikaze is the best Eminem album we've gotten in a while. I don't necessarily like it as much as some of his better stuff. But it's shorter. It's like 45 minutes, which I would argue is the correct length for an album. It's 45 minutes. So that's better. There's 13 songs. This is Eminem throwing a temper tantrum. There's no way around it. He throws a temper tantrum like a petulant fucking child for 45 like unedited minutes. It is just Eminem fucking bitching about people negatively reviewing his past album. Well, one album I've listened to that is shorter is the album Yay by Kanye West, which I would argue is one of his best albums. I will tell you this, when we're done with Eminem, I will probably re-listen to all of the Kanye albums and all of his new albums as well, just as a little refresher, with the acknowledgement that Kanye West kind of sucks and he broke his brain by fucking inhaling too much nitrous. So do keep that in mind. I'm all about separating the art from the artist, which I need to constantly reiterate with Kanye going forward. You have an album that's Jesus. That okay? You know what? That beats Yay. Yay, I think, is like 20 minutes long. Kind of sucks he was filmed walking around. See, that's the problem. I've actually reached a point where I stopped telling people I'm a Kanye fan. I think that's more the kind of stuff. You're not. He did worse than that. He sold swastika shirts as a Super Bowl ad. He bought a Super Bowl ad and sold people swastika shirts. I can't defend that. I can't. I used to be able to like defend him as like a person where I'm like, well, he gets off of his meds because he thinks he can't make a good music. But there's a point where it's like, no, his brain broke. He did too much drug and his brain broke now. And I do think that's what's happened. I do think that he like got hooked on like laughing gas, and I think his brain is just fried. I am genuinely confident. I'm like 80% confident that Kanye West has done so much laughing gas that his brain is fried. And he should probably seek better people around him and medical attention. Kanye hasn't been good since Heartless. Oh no, that's not true. That was when was that? That was Graduation. No, that's not true at all. No, because after Graduation, I believe, was My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. He did Yay. Yay is fantastic. Yay is one of the best albums I've ever fucking heard. Donda was pretty good. Not yay good, but pretty fucking good. So no, I'm going to disagree. Kanye's hit past Graduation for sure. I don't want to hate on Graduation though. But because Graduation's a solid album, but that's like barely an album. That's like an LP or something, or an EP or whatever the fuck you call it. Anyway, after Eminem, I think I'm going to go back to Kanye. Or I might listen to Tyler's new album, Chromatica, just because there's one. And I already reviewed all the other Tyler albums, so I might listen to Chromatica, and then we'll go to Kanye. And I want the underpinning idea that everyone keep in mind that Kanye is kind of a piece of shit for sure now. Like, for sure. Like, no defending Kanye as a person. So I'm just listening to the music. Excuse me. From the musical perspective. And I will be, you might be wondering, are you going to listen to the racist albums? And I feel like I have to. But if it's as racist as people say, I will probably call out that I'm like, hey, this album was kind of racist. How about Memoir of My Malice Miser? It's about 29 minutes long and 7 songs. How long is Yay? Yay is not a long album. By the way, I've not finished talking about Kamikaze. Yay is 23 minutes and 41 seconds. So, and that is a legitimately fantastic album. That is one of the best albums Kanye made before he went absolutely insane, anti-Semitic, racist, crazy person. You already did beat it. You gave me the Black Flag album that's like 5 minutes. I'm not saying there's not shorter albums. I'm just saying that's the shortest album I listen to. Anyway, yeah, Kamikaze. This is Eminem throwing a temper tantrum. And the best part about this being Eminem throwing a temper tantrum for like fucking 45, you said that's basically an EP. Okay, yeah, that's fair. But yeah, the best part about Eminem throwing a temper tantrum for 13 songs over the course of like 45 minutes is this is the most on topic Eminem has ever managed to say for an entire album the entire time. This is just a temper tantrum. It is such a fucking refreshing turn of pace for every other Eminem album that he is able to fucking go on topic and stay on topic. He's just mad the whole time. And it's great. It's like, oh, hey, Eminem, you made a fucking consistent ass album with one topic that you addressed the whole time. Now, I will say, some of what Eminem says in these albums where he's like shitting my people, agreeable. Some of the other things he says, maybe not so much. The songs themselves can go kind of hard. He does use that new Eminem style that I'm not always the best fan of at some points. But like sonically, it's not actually bad. This is actually one of the best Eminem albums we've gotten in a while. I did kind of enjoy it, if I remember correctly. By the way, I have a Rate Your Music now. So that's fun. Living in Darkness by Agent Orange is 1953 with 9 songs. That sounds like a real album. That sounds like a real album. That's a pretty short album. It's a pretty short album, not gonna lie. Yeah, I actually kind of liked Kamikaze. I feel... I like that these Eminem listens have basically been me being like, Eminem sucks. And then whenever an album that comes up that like some people like, I'm just like, you know what? It was pretty good. They were right. So I don't know. If anything, I think the consensus about Eminem isn't necessarily the most wrong, except for the Marshall Mathers LPs and the Slim Shady LPs, which do suck. They suck. Very good singles artist. I don't want to discredit Eminem completely. I think he is a very good singles artist. I think he's very much like Tupac in that regard. I think they make fantastic singles. But I think if you tell them to lock on for multiple songs in one topic, they fucking can't. Like, they just fucking can't do it. Now, when I did the Tyler reviews, where I talked about all of the Tyler albums, I did bring up the controversy of Kamikaze, and this is, to my knowledge, one of, if not the only time. Technically, Eminem apologized in one of his previous albums that we just reviewed, and I forgot to bring it up. He apologized to his mom for cleaning out his closet. For cleaning out your closet, and he apologized to Kim for all of the shitting on Kim songs. Although I will say that he later brought it up, and he was like, I'm going to stop bringing you up, Kim, and then that was probably in Marshall Mathers LP where he said he's going to stop bringing up Kim, and then he brought her up again in Revival to be like, I'm sorry, Kim. So you're still bringing her up, Em. But anyway, you ever hear about Eminem was in a rap contest that was rigged in his favor, and he still lost? Wasn't that in the in the Your Band Sucks thing? I think they talked about that at one point. But anyway, yeah, so I will talk about the big controversy is for one of the very few times Eminem actually apologized for a lyric in this. He calls Tyler, the Creator, a slur in this. He drops the F slur. The one that's also for a British cigarette. I'm not allowed to say this slur. One, Twitch would get on my ass. And two, I'm actually not part of the affected group for this slur, which is a rarity for me because I'm in a surprisingly amount of affected groups, so I'm allowed to say more slurs than you'd expect by just looking at my face. But yeah, I'm not allowed to say this one, both by Twitch and just because it would not be politically correct or apropos for me to say it out loud. But I think you can figure out what I'm talking about. And so he calls Tyler this in one of his songs because Tyler was like tweeted like Revival sucked or some shit. And Eminem got super butthurt about that. Rhymes with bag. Rhymes with maggot. How about that? Rhymes with maggot. White dude with shaved head slaying services as well. Yeah, well, say. I also choose not to most of the time, despite the surprising number of cards I have. Also, I'm not white. I've mentioned that before. I'm actually surprisingly not white. I just look white. But anyway, yeah, so he uses a slur against Tyler. Now, Eminem loves that slur. He says it all the fucking time. It's not a big deal 99% of the time. The issue is that Tyler, the Creator, is kind of like openly bisexual, is the thing. Like, he came out in Flower Boy, and then he had an entire album called Igor dedicated to a gay romance, and then he more clarifies that he's bisexual in Call Me If You Get Lost. So, like, Tyler refuses to say in an interview, as far as I can tell, that he is bisexual, but his music makes it very clear that he is a bisexual man. So, again, nothing wrong with that. The issue comes in when you're Eminem and you're dropping a specific slur. And so the issue with this is, if you call someone who is not gay or is not bisexual this specific slur, you know the one I'm talking about. We all know what I'm saying, right? You drop the F slur, you're kind of being an asshole. If you use the slur against someone who traditionally the slur would be directed to, you're not being an asshole or name calling. You are using the slur as it is specifically intended to be used. There's a difference in that. You're not just like being a dick. You're like actually being a bigot. Like, it is like a actually problematic line. Like, it's so much more offensive to say it to Tyler than it would be to say to anyone else. It's like, whoa. You can tell it's bad because I think even in the actual album itself, Eminem censors himself, and it's like, dog, you could just not release that part of the song. You could just change the line. You had enough creative control. You didn't have to do it. So, yeah, I just want to bring up that line just because I think it's like, it's one of the only times where I would say, like, genuinely crossed the line on that. It's one of those things where it's like, no, that is just straight up indefensible. I cannot, like, that's fucking crazy. And he apologized for that line. He's like, yeah, I shouldn't have said that. And I saw an interview with M where who was it, like DJ Academics, who was a fucking, oh boy, he got exposed recently. Look that up if you want. But yeah, where he was like, was he trying to groom a young boy? I think it was like on the live stream. I don't quote me on that. I'm not committing to that, but I think that was the problem with him. But anyway, yeah. I'm not committing to any of what I just said. But anyway, yeah, he publicly apologized for that, and he fucking should have, because like that is over the fucking line. You can't like if you're just dropping a slur, you shouldn't be, for the record. But like if you're dropping a slur against the intended target, that is outright bigotry, is the thing. There's zero defense against that. You are using it as intended. So yeah. Reminds me of the guys that made Smiling Friends on their YouTube. They regularly say all kinds of slurs, but censor them for YouTube. And it's like, just don't say them on camera at that point. Well, I imagine the reason they censor them is for demonetization purposes. Because if it said that, they wouldn't be able to get their videos monetized. So they're probably censoring it for a different reason than Eminem. Who's saying it because he's mad, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, Kamikaze is a surprisingly listenable album. Yeah, I just wanted to bring up that one point because it was like, whoa. And I've talked about that line before. And so I was like expecting it. And like when I was listening to it, I'm like, oh, here it comes. And then it came and I was like, whoa. So yeah, don't do that. Anyway, Tyler's fucking great. Honestly, the funniest part about this, I would have to say, is that I think Tyler mentioned that he was like inspired by Eminem, and having listened to every Tyler album, Tyler the Creator is, as an albums artist, maybe not as a singles artist, but as an albums artist, he's just better than Eminem. He's better than Eminem anyway. So I fucking said it. Tyler is a better albums artist than Eminem. So there you go. It's the ultimate revenge. Okay, we only have one more topic, it looks like. That in the outro. So, you'll already know what it is. It's time for that segment of the podcast, or talk show, or whatever the fuck we call this. Late night talk show. It's time for that segment of the late night talk show where we talk about one anime for a maximum of 350 minutes that is dubbed in English. This week, assuming you actually found a fucking copy, because it was shockingly hard to, we had Geno Cyber. Geno Cyber is about a young girl who is a twin and part of a genetic... Why am I explaining the plot of Geno Cyber? You watched Geno Cyber. You already watched Geno Cyber. You know what this is about. What did you think about Geno Cyber? I thought it was bad and unfocused. So, like, can we talk about how you have seen Geno Cyber? Yes, good job, Maid. Good job actually watching The Dart this week. Or month. Good job actually watching The Dart this second month. Yeah, I thought this was weirdly unfocused. It's peak early 90s gore fest. It was gory for sure. It just felt like shit happening, though. Doesn't it? Doesn't it kind of feel like shit just kind of happens in this? It's like the first one is like this girl, and she's like sort of like animalistic, and then the like kid dies, right? And then she has the sister who's like, I'm gonna kill you, brah. And then they like merge together, and then it's just like time jumps and like jumps around, and then they're in like a military base, and then the lady goes crazy. Excuse me. The plot is definitely forgettable. Yeah, no, it feels like it like jumps through like 5 different plots over 6 different episodes, and it feels like they had ideas that they wanted to throw Geno Cyber into, but they didn't want to focus. Like they don't finish any of the plot lines, is what it feels like. There's never a satisfying end to any of the arcs. They just bring the character up, and then a bunch of people die, and then the arc ends, and then they jump to the next one. They never like end their stories. It's very sloppily made, very like hapdash. It's also not written in a way that feels like it was made just to enable violence, though, because it's not like every plot point converges into the point of violence. It's like the violence is incidental to the greater narrative, and it felt like someone was trying to tell a story but wasn't given time to tell a story, but also they weren't it they had the time. They had 6 episodes or whatever to tell the fucking story, so they had the time to tell the story, and it felt like they were interested in telling the story and then they gave up. It felt like they started to tell a story and were like, okay, I'm done. It ends in violence or whatever. I don't know. Everyone's crazy and dies. I guess everyone crazy and dies. It's like, God, it felt, you know what it felt like? It felt like a fucking high school writing project from like a teenager who's like in a super edgy phase. It felt like an edgy teenager's writing phase. I like Genocyber in the same way I like Galaxy of Terror. I don't think I've seen Galaxy of Terror. It's so unfocused. It has no interest in having any payoff for any of its narratives. The violence almost feels tangential to the story. It feels like there's just violence for the sake of it, because it never really pushes the narrative forward. It's just there. It's just like Genocyber is a story where shit just keeps happening. The most interesting part of the entire series is the last 2 episodes, which is dedicated to the future and the girl that sees the future, and her like boyfriend who ends up getting kidnapped by the corrupt evil politician cops, which means and I'm going to put this out there, that the most interesting part of all of Genocyber was the part where Genocyber wasn't on the fucking screen. Like, the best part of this entire OVA is the part where the main character is missing and is, like, turned into a fucking statue. It's a bad, violent, over-the-top sci-fi movie that's not good but fun watch. Yeah, it's like, this is, like, bad on every level. Am I wrong? Tell me if I'm wrong, but like this kind of sucks at everything. The best thing I would say is it actually looks pretty good. Like aesthetically, it's pretty fine. I think the character designs are serviceable. I think the monster designs are fine. I think some interesting ideas were presented, but I think the show was completely uninterested in engaging in those ideas. So yeah, Genocyber was certainly an anime that we watched. Does anyone have anything to add to Genocyber before we move on to the actual dart itself? Oh, God. Oh, fuck. Galaxy of Terror was a B-movie directed by James Cameron, and it's a blatant alien ripoff. It's Alien, but worse. It's infamously at a scene where Space Mountain rapes a woman. So Genocyber, there you go. Galaxy of Terror was very popular in Japan, of all places, and reference ripped off by several 80s anime. Yeah, it sounds like Japan. Alright, I think we're good to move on from Genocyber. I don't think anyone else has anything to add to Genocyber. I think I'm pretty on point. So we're going to close out Genocyber, and we're going to move to Anime Dartboard. We're going to shuffle. By the way, I added new entries to Anime Dartboard. We're at 159. I added the new ones that were added by Sacking Eternal. So, get ready for this shit. Okay, well, we almost had Armitage 3, which would have been hilarious because Maid mentioned that earlier in the show. We instead have Hanayamata, which I don't know what that is. Okay, it came out in 2014, so it's relatively modern. Hanayamata aired in summer of 2014, animated by Studio Madhouse. 24-minute episode. Its genre is slice of life. It's based off of manga. Its themes are cute girls do cute things, yashike, performing arts, in school. It was directed by... Ironic that James Cameron made an Alien ripoff when he later made the sequel to Alien. It is directed by Atsuko Ishizuka, who did No Game, No Life 0. Place Further Than the Universe. 2 episodes of Oi Bangaku series. Prince of Stride Alternative. This is a pretty solid pedigree, actually. Several episodes of whatever supernatural the animation was. Goodbye Don Glees. I don't know what that is. And it looks like at the tender age of 14, high school student Naru Sekuya finds that she pales in comparison to the fairy tale princesses she adores so much, not to mention the ideal girl she wants to be in contrast to her peers. Her childhood friend Yaya Sasame is enjoying herself with her school rock band, while her other childhood friend Tommy Nashimikado is a member of the school council. Desiring the strength to take the next step forward, Naru has wanted Magic Key to open her timid heart since the start of high school. During one moonlit night, Naru encounters what she believes is a cute fairy standing atop a torii gate, who shortly invites her to dance with her. The next day, she discovers that the fairy was not only an ordinary girl, but also a transfer high school student from America. Excited to meet Naru again, Hana and Front Stand encourages her to help her start a new club for Yosukoi, a festive type of Japanese dance that Hana has been entranced by since childhood. Though initially terrified of Hana's enthusiasm and thought of being seen dancing, Naru slowly finds herself immersed in the art of Yasuokoi. I said that wrong, but whatever. And assisting her new friend in achieving her dream. For the path of a maiden such as herself is at the mercy of the wind. A companion mobile application, Hanayamata, was released by Bond and Partners on May 28th, 2014, prior to the airing of the TV show. The application features the ability to play sounds of Naruka inspired by the main cast of the characters. The series was released with Blu-ray and DVD by Sentai Filmworks in January 19th, 2016. Okay, well, this has English voice actors. I have no fucking clue why I wanted to watch this. Maybe the plot sounded more interesting before it was done by Mallory White, because I have zero fucking idea why I want to watch this. But there we go. Hanayamata. Hope you're all excited to watch it. I know everyone participates in Anime Dartboard, so check this out somewhere. Crunchyroll and High Dive. It's easy to watch, apparently. Just gonna watch Ghost Hunt instead. You can watch both, mate. This is only 12 episodes. 24 episodes, so this is 5.5 hours. You can watch that in 2 days. I'm gonna be real. You can watch that in 2 days, mate. You can watch it in 2 days. It's not hard. Alright, check out Hanayamata. Why do I want to watch this? I don't know. It sounds kind of like K-On! I probably saw a clip where I'm like, this looks kind of like K-On! Maybe it's kind of like K-On! There we go. That's my pitch. Hanayamata. Sounds kind of like K-On! Alright, moving on. We're done. Oops. We have K-On at home. It does kind of sound like K-On! That you have at home. You're not wrong. Alright. That's it. I think we're done. Outro time. What do we have to talk about? Yeah, we're continuing on with KOTOR 2. We're continuing on with KOTOR 2. And when is the next episode? I don't know. Maybe tomorrow? Don't quote me on that. I don't know. We'll probably be streaming KOTOR 2 more over the next few weeks. As we all know, as I've divulged the peek behind the curtain, part of what inspires me to stream more often is how much I enjoy the game. And KOTOR 2 is actually fun, unlike every other Kingdom Hearts we've been playing. So you'll probably be seeing more of me streaming just because I want to play KOTOR 2 rather than play KOTOR. Tomorrow, you sound awful. You are making a good point. You are talking logic. You're saying logic with your mouth. You sound like you should say it. You aren't wrong. You're not wrong. Maybe I should. But regardless, you will be seeing me at some point over the next few weeks. We will be continuing on with KOTOR 2. Everyone should watch Hanayamata. And then when's the next podcast episode? I guess I could tell you. That's all we got going on, right? Y'all know the schedule at this point. should be May 4th. That's what you got. Are we good? 2.5 hours? That's not bad. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. Thanks for stopping by, everyone. I think we're done. Hope you had a good night. Max here, Kato, mate, as always. Anyone else who popped by, I saw little heads flickering every now and again. Yeah, watch Hana Yamada before May 4th. You have plenty of time. Until then, I have been Sacrabalic, your envoy of hope, and I will almost certainly have my fever gone by the next episode. See you next time. I have to hit the end stream button, and then I hit bye-bye, because I like watching my little emote bounce up and down. Shout out to Wake, by the way, who creates my emotes. Wake's great.